sandwiches, ice cream, coffee and snacks, and many other pleasing treats. Our foods are fresh and tasty, our drinks satisfying and refreshing. They're so good.
Welcome to Average Joe's Drive-In.
And now, on with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 74 of Average Joe's Drive-In. This is a review cast. I have a whole bunch of DVDs and Blu-rays to talk about, as long as some streaming stuff, and we are going to be cracking open the VHS vault. So, let's get it going. Starting off is 2004's Dawn of the Dead.
Hey Cora, can you do me a favor and locate a patient for me?
Ange. Edward Solomon?
Yeah.
They had him backwards. Solomon Edward. He's upstairs in ICU.
From a bite? Hey.
Hey, you. Call an ambulance!
I've just been informed that we are going off the air.
Look up the road, there's a lot more of them. Why are they coming here?
Maybe they're coming for us.
There's a man going around taking names, and he decides who to treat and who to blame. Everybody won't be treated all the same. There'll be a golden ladder reaching down when the man
The film was directed by Zack Snyder, has a 101-minute runtime, it's rated R, stars Sarah Polley, Ving Rhames, Mekhi Phifer. I watched this on Blu-ray. Synopsis. When her husband is attacked by a zombified neighbor, Anna manages to escape, only to realize her entire Milwaukee neighborhood has been overrun by the Walking Dead. After being questioned by cautious policeman Kenneth, Anna joins him in a small group that gravitates to the local shopping mall as a bastion of safety. Once they convince suspicious security guards that they are not contaminated, the group bands together to fight the undead hordes. I haven't seen this one in 3 or 4 years. Out of the horror remakes that came out in the early 2000s, this was always my favorite. I have this on DVD, but a friend of mine recently hooked me up with a Blu-ray copy, so I figured it was time for a revisit. This film still kicks ass, it's a ton of fun, it looks good, and the actors are great. This film manages to do its own thing while not tarnishing the legacy of Romero's original, which many people consider to be the best zombie film ever made. Remakes for me always seem to work best when they maintain the spirit of the original, but get adventurous and do their own thing. But it's a fine line you have to walk. Go too far one way or the other in either direction and you have complete crap or something that's remake in name only. This film manages to find that sweet spot so many films fail at. It's one of the finest examples of how to do a remake right. One thing I've always adored about this is the character arc of CJ. You go from flat out hating him in the beginning to rooting for him by the end. He has one of the best shifts I can remember of a character in any film. Too often those situations feel forced. Not here. Something else I've always liked about this was the fact the characters are flawed. They don't make all the right decisions, they're human, and while they may have the best intentions, it's maybe not always thought through. Like the original, you become invested in them and watch as they transition through stages of confusion, anger, complacency, and survival. It becomes a journey you can't look away from. When it's all said and done, this comes close to rivaling the original. It's one of the few remakes to do so, in my honest opinion. There are a few little things here and there that keep it from doing so. Even if it doesn't quite match the original, it's a great film that manages to stand on its own 2 feet and distance itself from most of your standard horror fare original or remake. My rating for this was an 8.5 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 7.3 out of 10. Up next, 2018's Death Wish.
Sway in the morning, Shade 4-5. We got to talk about what's happening in Chicago.
Everybody's watching this viral video. This guy in the hoodie, they're calling him the Grim Reaper. He stopped a carjacking.
Is he right for taking the law into his own hands?
He's become a folk hero.
What about the shooter?
You look like a white dude.
I love my family. But when they needed me most.
911, what is your emergency?
There's men, they're breaking into my house. I think they're here. No.
I failed to protect them.
Dad, where's Mom?
The men who did it are out there. So there's nothing that you can do? Is that what you're saying?
If a man really wants to protect what's his,
I want to buy a gun.
he has to do it for himself.
We're closed, pal.
You killed my wife. Who else was there?
I don't know anything else.
I believe you, Joe.
So you're not gonna kill me.
No. Jack is.
You got caught in some crossfire?
The ice cream man done it.
The ice cream man.
Can't walk to school if you don't work for him.
Who are you? Your last customer.
You're not a cop. Somebody has to do it.
You're cocked, locked, and ready to rock.
I'll say.
They called him a guardian angel. He saved my life.
You look much better. Getting out, socializing.
Not so much.
Well, whatever you're doing, keep it up.
Okay, I will.
The genre is action crime drama, directed by Eli Roth, has a 107-minute runtime, rated R, stars Bruce Willis, Vincent D'Onofrio, and Elizabeth Shue. I watched this on DVD. Synopsis. Dr. Paul Kersey is a surgeon who often sees the consequences of the city's violence in the emergency room. When home intruders brutally attack his wife and young daughter, Kersey becomes obsessed with delivering vigilante justice to the perpetrators. As the anonymous slayings grab the media's attention, the public begins to wonder if the deadly avenger is a guardian angel or the Grim Reaper itself. I've been kind of avoiding this one, not because I didn't want to see it, but because I figured it was going to be chock full of political overtones. Honestly, at this point, I'm sick and tired of that. There's enough of that bullshit in everyday life. I don't want it in my entertainment. Also, I've never been a big fan of Ross. While there's certainly a lot of commentary about the current state of violence in our country, it doesn't really go too overboard in either direction. I think Roth did a good job of balancing things out and making a highly entertaining movie. This harkens back to the days of over-the-top canon film level violence, but pulls up just short of going too cheesy. Sure, is it unrealistic? Absolutely. But that's what keeps it from becoming too serious. I thought the acting was solid, the camera work was good, and the effects were top-notch. And they reach horror movie levels as far as the sheer brutality of the violence. The technical aspects of the film were very well done. In fact, I may have to go out on a limb and say this was easily Ross' most complete film to date. Also, it's great to see Elizabeth Shue on screen again. I've always enjoyed her as an actress. Overall, I thought this was an enjoyable movie. This is most certainly not going to be a film for everyone that everyone will enjoy. If you're the type of person who can't take a film for its face entertainment value and need to politicize everything, you won't enjoy this. More than likely, it will just piss you off, no matter what side of the fence you sit on. My rating is a 7 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 6.4 out of 10. Up next, 2003's House of a Thousand Corpses.
Howdy, folks. You like blood, violence, freaks of nature?
On a stormy Halloween night, 4 young people set out across the back roads of America.
What's that? It's a hitchhiker.
What, should we stop?
We can't leave her out here in the rain.
In search of a mysterious figure known only as
Dr. Satan. You know anything about the legend of Dr. Satan?
Yeah, I can show you.
Dr. Satan! Ah, Dr. Satan!
What they uncovered
You ain't seen nothing yet.
is the most horrifying and shocking tale of carnage ever seen.
Boy, I bet you'd stick your head in the fire if I told you could see hell.
You seen this girl?
Yeah, they want to play Nancy Drew with this local legend that people call Dr. Satan.
Stupid kids probably got themselves lost.
Let's get out of this nut house.
The boogeyman is real. And you found him. It's showtime!
Please don't kill us.
From director Rob Zombie comes a journey into hell.
This can't be real, this can't be real, this can't be real.
House of a Thousand Corpses.
Hope you like what you see!
The genre is horror, directed by Rob Zombie, has a runtime of 89 minutes, rated R, stars Sig Haig, Karen Black, and Bill Moseley. I watched this on Shudder. Synopsis. An empty fuel tank and a flat tire lead 2 couples down a terror-riddled road to the House of a Thousand Corpses. House of a Thousand Corpses is at its core a story of family. A cast of twisted individuals who, with each slash of a throat or stab through the chest, add bodies to their sick human menagerie. I've only seen this one a few times shortly after it came out. At the time, I remember not caring for it all that much, and I bordered on hating it. I thought it had potential, but it just never really clicked for me. Now, The Devil's Rejects, on the other hand, I loved. With that in mind, I decided it had been long enough and I needed to give this another chance. I have to say my opinion on this one has turned around. While I wouldn't say it's a great film, I rather enjoyed it. It has a very Italian and grindhouse vibe to it. It's over the top and weird. It doesn't make a ton of sense. The characters are sadistic and mean-spirited, but that element fits because of how odd the film is. The acting works because it's so over the top and fits the whole visual vibe of the film. There are some annoying things about this. The weird inverted color palette and music video style transitions get a bit annoying. I wouldn't have minded it if it was done once or twice, but after several times it started to feel unnecessary and old. The constant, quick, in and out herky-jerky camera work gets a bit old as well. This being Zombie's first film, I think you could tell he was still finding his footing. There are some great ideas and style there that he just didn't quite flesh out. You can tell there's something there, but he hadn't quite nailed it down yet. There is one scene that I've always appreciated and found amazing in this. I'm not going to spoil it, but it involves the sheriff's deputy and Otis. The built-up tension in that scene is heart-pounding. Moments like those little glimpses really push this beyond what it is. I feel like it's better now than it was when I first saw it. It's one of those rare cases where time has actually done the film some favors. At least that's how I feel this time around. My rating is a 6.5 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 6.1 out of 10. Up next, 2018's Pacific Rim Uprising.
We were born into a world at war. Between the monsters that destroyed our cities and the monsters we created to stop them, we thought we had sacrificed enough. But the war we thought we finished is just beginning. And the only thing standing in front of the apocalypse is us.
War ready. War ready.
But it doesn't matter where you came from, who believed in you and who didn't.
War ready. War ready.
This is our time. This is our chance to make a difference.
War ready. War ready.
Now let's get it done.
That's what I'm talking about.
I wanna get it on till I die. In my focus, I wanna get it on till I die.
They've evolved.
And they could wipe out all life.
Y'all remember me. Y'all remember me. In my focus, I wanna get it on till I die. Get it on till I die.
I think I could get used to this.
In my focus, I wanna get it on till I die.
There's something you need to see. Well, he's pretty big.
Fire everything you've got! Get it on till I die. Get it on till I die. Get it on till I die. Legendary, live eternally.
The genre is action-adventure sci-fi, directed by Stephen S. DeKnight, has a 111-minute runtime, rated PG-13, stars John Boyega, Scott Eastwood, and Kaylee Spaney. I watched this on DVD. Synopsis. Jake Pentecost is a once promising Jaeger pilot whose legendary father gave his life to secure humanity's victory against the monstrous kaiju. Jake has since abandoned his training only to become caught up in a criminal underworld. But when an even more unstoppable threat is unleashed to tear through cities and bring the world to its knees, Jake is given one last chance by his estranged sister, Mako Mori, to live up to his father's legacy. Like most films, I didn't get a chance to go and see this in the theater. I've been waiting for it to come out on home video, so I could rent it and check it out. I almost considered buying it, but wanted to give it a view first as I'd heard fairly mixed reviews about it. First of all, the film's gorgeous. I was curious about that aspect of things without Guillermo del Toro at the helm. The effects might be better than the first one. Even with those two things going for it, I didn't feel like this quite had the same charm as the first one. It's still enjoyable, but not quite on the same level. Overall, the cast is good, but this certainly suffers a bit on the story end of things. One of the things I enjoyed so much about the first film was the pacing. This moved along at a crawl for the majority of the film. The fight sequences are great when they get around to them, but it takes a while to get to that point. Personally, from an acting standpoint, I like John Boyega much better as the lead than Charlie Hunnam in the first. It's a mixed bag of up and downs. Even if it isn't quite as good as the first film, it's still enjoyable. I certainly don't understand the hate it gets. If and when I come across this one for cheap, I will definitely add it to the collection. My rating is a 6 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 5.7 out of 10. Up next, 2018's Return of the Scarecrow.
Legend tells of an ancient evil.
Listen here. There's an evil in those regions.
Like what? Like witches? Monsters?
With an immense thirst for vengeance.
It's just an urban legend, right?
If you can't see it or touch it or smell it, you don't believe in it.
Dear God, what is that up there?
Slumbering until it's consumed by its hate.
Strange and dark things lurk in the night. And in those woods.
I mean, I've heard the stories, but that's all they are. Stories to scare kids.
You know, fairy tales to amuse the fantastically bored, uncaring use of the techno age.
Okay, you kids go have some fun.
Don't tell me you scared of that thing.
And it awakens and returns.
An evil scarecrow.
Oh, scary.
To unleash its unholy terror. But this time, something's happened.
Holy crap! Holy crap! Holy crap!
Something very stupid.
I tell you what. I say you want to go out and scare the ever-living bejesus out of those kids with some old scarecrow outfits.
He's young and dumb, just like all of you are.
Should we go that way? Or that way?
Now we got to all calm down and not be stupid.
Considering this was your idea.
Or more stupid.
It's worse.
I've lived here my whole life. Nothing has happened.
Hey, we are only going camping.
Holy crap, man!
Funny. Okay, bye.
Whole damn town is in an uproar. Discretion, Burge, is the better part of valor.
It's more fun than camping.
Early Morning Film Productions presents a tale about evil gone redneck.
The Scarecrow, the one from the story. It has returned.
Coming soon.
I don't know exactly how to explain it, but there is a...
Let me guess. A scarecrow.
This is a comedy horror directed by Walter Loades III, 74-minute runtime, unrated, stars Jason Brenner, Marie-Louise McCavey, and Jason Roth. I watched this on Amazon Prime. Return of the Scarecrow is an 80s horror comedy throwback that tells of a rural legend of an evil scarecrow that slumbers until its evil cannot be contained, and it awakens and continually returns to unleash its unholy terror. However, a hillbilly prank gone wrong has resulted in a case of mistaken identity and a night that a group of unsuspecting campers and townsfolk will never forget. So often when I'm searching one of these streaming services for something to watch, it comes down to what I'm in the mood for. I was feeling comedy horror, but I also wanted something I hadn't seen. Lo and behold, a new film popped up on the recently added portion of Prime, and I said, what the hell? Going in, I figured this was probably a lower budget film. While that doesn't define my overall enjoyment of a film, there are certain things one can usually expect. Many times those things can become a hindrance to viewing enjoyment. So, when the film started up, I guessed right and almost shut it off just because I figured I was in for another one of those movies. Instead, I stuck with it and gave it a chance. I'm glad I did. Return of the Scarecrow ended up being a lot of fun. It's very well shot, the sound was good, and I found myself laughing quite a bit. There are some great character dynamics, especially between Wyatt and Virgil. This film is a great example of a low-budget filmmaking done right. They didn't try too hard to go outside their means, worked with what they had and made it happen. While ambition is a good thing, more often than not, I think being too ambitious and not knowing when to work within your limitations hurts more than it helps. This film worked because it did seemingly operate within the parameter of those limitations. While this one won't be for everyone, if you're someone who can go in with an open mind, you'll more than likely find some enjoyment in this one. My rating is a 6 out of 10. There is no average IMDb rating as of yet. Up next, the last film before we get into the VHS vault is 2011's Shark Night.
Hands up! We are going up to Lake Crosby to Sarah Houseke's house.
Are you ready for the lake?
Let's go!
Room for one more?
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Good boy.
Oh.
You guys have fun back there.
Not quite what we had in mind. Let's rock it out.
Your house is on an island?
Oh, it's gonna be a good weekend.
You want to hit that, huh? Your secret's safe with me, man.
Saltwater lake.
I don't know how the hell they got in here. Maybe someone put them there.
What is this, some kind of sick game?
This is a horror thriller directed by David R. Ellis, has a 90-minute runtime, rated PG-13, stars Sarah Paxton, Dustin Milligan, and Chris Carmack. I watched this on Blu-ray. Synopsis. Newly arrived at her family's Lake Island cabin, college student Sarah and her friends prepare for a weekend of fun in the sun. But soon after they dive into the lake, football player Malik stumbles out of the water with a grievous wound. Thinking Malik is a victim of a freak accident, the friends pile into a tiny speedboat and head for the hospital. To their horror, they discover that they are surrounded by hundreds of massive, hungry sharks. I saw this once a few years ago. I honestly didn't remember much about it. When I came across it for $2, I decided to snag it. It was only a couple bucks, so if it sucked, I wouldn't be out much. Now I remember why I didn't remember anything about this movie. It's rather terrible. Bad CGI sharks, cliché characters, and a very weak story. Don't get me wrong, many times I can overlook some of this stuff to a certain degree. Often films like these become enjoyable on a so bad it's fun level. Not this one. It was just drab and boring. This exemplified everything I loathe about PG-13 horror. The score and the cinematography were well done. I'll give the film that much. Honestly, I thought the actors were decent. They just didn't have a whole lot to work with. Maybe I'm just jaded from my years of horror movie viewing. Maybe if I had seen this as a teenager, I would have loved it. But not now. My rating is a 3 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 4 out of 10. So that is going to wrap up this portion of Average Joe's Drive-In. And we are going to crack open the VHS vault. Welcome to the VHS vault. This is a portion of the show where I blow out the dust from classic and forgotten films from the VHS days. Films you may have forgotten about, never heard of, or just haven't seen in a while. Up first, 1998's Blackjack.
From director John Woo, the modern master of action.
Location's been compromised.
How can you protect her from me?
When you need protection, you need just one man.
Devlin, Jack Devlin.
Dolph Lundgren.
He's here. I know he's here. She stays inside, under guard, until we get this guy.
Come on, Jack.
John Woo. Dolph Lundgren. Blackjack.
This is an action comedy crime. Directed by John Woo, has a 112-minute runtime, rated R, stars Dolph Lundgren, Kate Vernon, and Philip McKenzie. Synopsis. Federal agent Jack Devlin must confront a phobia in order to save a supermodel from a skilled assassin. I picked this up at a yard sale with a bunch of other VHS, several which I had never seen or even heard of. I figured it being a John Woo film and having Dolph Lundgren as a star, it should at least be entertaining. While I didn't love this film, I certainly didn't hate it. Truthfully, it was borderline being awesome, but there was just something that didn't quite click. I found myself zoning out on more than one occasion. Part of the reason I think the whole thing not clicking was the fact the movie just couldn't figure out what it wanted to be. It was a bit too all over the place, trying to have some deep metaphors and psychological nuances. Unfortunately, that just made it seem scattered instead of deep and intriguing. If you've watched any John Woo films before, his style is all over the film. The acting ranges from okay to overdone. The story itself is interesting, but a little too all over the place. There are a few scenes that were really cool and well done that stuck out. When it all boils down to it, it was an interesting watch. It had potential, but misses the mark just slightly. Still, worth a watch if you're a fan of Lundgren or Woo. If this film had been a little better, I could have almost seen this as being a franchise. Lundgren could have pulled it off and made it interesting with better material. You don't think like Bourne, Bond, that sort of thing, but with a little more of a comedic kind of edge. My rating for this is a 4.5 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 4.9 out of 10. Up next, 1997's Cube.
Cube. 26 rooms high, 26 rooms across.
17,576 rooms.
Does anybody remember how they got here?
Why would they throw innocent people in here? Are we being punished?
There's a way in here, so there's gotta be a way out.
Do you think they'd go to all the trouble to build this thing if we could just walk out?
Take a good long look around. But I got feelings looking at us.
We have about 3 days without food and water before we're too weak to move.
I just want to wake up.
I looked in the room down there and something almost cut my head off.
Motion detectors integrated into the walls. Tough to spot.
You're not getting out of here.
Yes, we are!
There is no way out of here!
We need to get around the trap.
They're identified by prime numbers.
Figure it out.
I can't!
I'm not dying in a rat maze!
No more talking. No more guessing. You gotta save yourselves from yourselves.
What the hell is going on?
We haven't been moving in circles, the rooms have.
We have the key.
The cube is us.
This is a drama, mystery, sci-fi, directed by Vincent Natali, has a 90-minute runtime, rated R, starring Nicole DeBoer, Maurice Dean Wint, and David Hewlett. Synopsis. Without remembering how they got there, several strangers awaken in a prison of cubic cells, some of them booby-trapped. There's one-time cop Quentin, scientist Holloway, young math genius Levin, master of escapes Rains, autistic savant Kazan, and architect Worth, who might have more information on the maze than he lets on. The prisoners must use their combined skills if they are to escape. This is one of those movies that I missed when it came out, had forgotten about, and never really had a whole lot of interest in watching. I picked it up on VHS for cheap a while back. For the price, I figured, what the hell, it would be worth at least a watch. And if it sucked, I wouldn't be out much. I'm really not sure how I feel about this one. It's very akin to late 70s, early 80s Italian cinema, and the bizarre nature of the story layout, and the color palette they chose to go with. The film is very claustrophobic. It's one of those films that rely heavily upon the characters to carry it. Score-wise, it feels like there isn't one. Instead of a score, it's more the sounds of mechanical whirring and nuances of the box to make up for the silence when the characters aren't speaking. This film leaves a lot up to the viewer's imagination as far as explaining why the people are trapped inside. There's some discussion, but it's never fully explained, which is okay. As you get to know the characters, I found myself increasingly apathetic towards them. I had no reason to care for them other than they were in an impossible, horrific situation. The ones I had any apathy towards were Kazan and Levin. I found myself loathing, not in a good way, the character of Quentin, almost from the get-go. He becomes so annoyingly psychotic as the film goes along, you can't take him seriously. A bit too overdone, in my honest opinion. This is one of those films I feel has a very interesting premise, a few good gore moments, and an interesting look. That alone pushes it past being mediocre and made it an enjoyable watch. It's an odd, interesting film, but again, I didn't care about the characters. That isn't a good thing when the film is primarily a character-driven story. It's what kept it from stepping up to that next level of awesomeness for me. I will most definitely give this one a rewatch at some point. I feel like it might be one of those movies that gets better with a few viewings. My rating for this is a 6 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 7.3 out of 10. Up next, 1989's Erik the Viking.
From the pages of history, the missing chapter. Erik the Viking.
Oh, scary, scary. Don't we look mean?
What is going on? A time when civilization was less civilized.
Throw down your weapons or we kill the children. Well, now we'll kill the children anyway.
Dating was dangerous.
Have you done this sort of thing before?
Me, of course, I've been looting and pillaging up and down the coast.
And peace looked a lot like war.
There is another way!
Who gets killed?
We'll be dangerous.
Erik and the men of Ravensfield are setting off to cross the Western Ocean.
Lucky things. I could do with a holiday, I can tell you.
When travel was tough.
Don't forget to wash. You know, all over.
It doesn't matter where you sit.
Yes, it does. We could be safe for months. You there, you there, and you there.
Now you've got all the big ones on one side.
And the ocean was scary.
It's the dragon of the North Sea!
A time of lust and confusion.
She's got no clothes on.
It's disgusting. Let's hack her to pieces. And everything was going to pieces.
Stay calm. This is not happening.
The future of the world rested on one man.
Why didn't you come up by the stairs?
Unfortunately, it was Erik the Viking. Tim Robbins, Terry Jones, Eartha Kitt, Mickey Rooney, Tsutomu Sakimi.
Oh, you'd be so bad if we knew what you were saying.
John Cleese. What? Anthony Sher, Imogen Stubbs.
He wants to take us off the edge of the world! There is no edge of the world!
Erik the Viking.
It's the stress that gets you, no?
This is a comedy, adventure, fantasy, directed by Terry Jones, 107-minute runtime, rated PG-13, stars Tim Robbins, John Cleese, and Mickey Rooney. A Viking with a conscience, Erik, tires of pillaging and decides to set out on a quest. When the wise Freya informs Erik that a great mythic wolf has eaten the sun, the warrior resolves to venture to Asgard, home of the Norse gods, to set things right. Before Erik can reach Asgard, he and his allies must first find a magical horn that resides in the land of King Arnulf, who luckily for the hero has a lovely daughter, Princess Aud. I've wanted to rewatch this one for quite some time, but haven't owned a copy for years. So, when I came across the VHS of it, I snagged it. This is one of those movies I adore. One of the things that I've always liked about it was the fact the humor is subtle. It's not schlocky or in your face. Small little things that make you crack up. I've seen this one dozens of times over the years and I still find myself laughing every time I watch it. If I remember correctly, it was considered kind of a flop when it came out, which I never understood. The cast is great, the score adds an epic adventure feel to it, and like I said, it has some great humor. It bums me out I don't hear more people talking about this one. It seems like it's a bit of a forgotten gem. I've always considered it a bit in the same vein as Monty Python. There's also a good reason it has that feel, as it was written and directed by Terry Jones. I'm hard-pressed to believe anyone who's a Monty Python fan wouldn't enjoy this. I'm glad to have this one back in the collection. Now that I do, I think this may just become a nearly yearly watch again. It's one of those films I just don't seem to tire of. A film I can throw on whenever, even if just in the background, and enjoy the hell out of. If you've never seen this before, I highly suggest you track down a copy. My rating is an 8 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 6.2 out of 10. And the last film for this week's review cast is 1992's Nemesis.
Alex Rain is a human being. His life is more dangerous with each sunrise.
Alex Rain will be destroyed somehow, some way.
He should die for what he's done. Get out!
In a future false world, he stands for truth.
He's a cop, all right.
In a violent world, violence is his life. He knows he must face the human condition alone.
It takes more than flesh and blood to be human, Alex.
I can't feel anything anymore.
Maybe you should take the time to find out what you care about, Alex.
You're not really human anymore, are you?
He knows the answer, but he doesn't know the question.
I think he accepted the story. By the time he learns the truth, it'll be too late.
He must face an ever-changing enemy in an eternal fight against an indestructible force.
I need your help with the cyborgs.
The never-ending battle line is drawn. They will never let him go.
How did it happen?
Relax. Help me relax, Marion.
He has they must have.
Jared's mind and soul, Alex.
In a world where humanity is measured in percentages, only Alex Rain knows the path to redemption, to the cyborg enemy. He is their nemesis.
This is an action sci-fi thriller directed by Albert Pune, has a 95-minute runtime, rated R, stars Oliver Gruner, Tim Thomerson, and Kari Hiraku Tagawa. Alex, a burned-out LA cyborg cop, is forced by Commissioner Farnsworth to find his former cyborg partner and lover, Jared, who's about to deliver sensitive data to cyborg terrorists who wish to wage war against human. Is he being played? So I rented this film a handful of times when I was in high school. Although I remember next to nothing about the actual film, my teenage brain thought this was pretty badass at the time. This is one of those films that slipped from memory until I came across it while out on a VHS treasure hunt. Snagged it, and I excitedly waited to throw it back in. Oh, glorious cheese. This falls into that category of so bad it's good. Direct-to-video rental goodness. You have a pile of recognizable B-movie stars who many would be hard-pressed to name, but would know their faces. Over-the-top special effects, terrible, albeit entertaining dialogue, and a score that feels like it was stolen from one of the Rambo movies. If you took Terminator, Cyborg, Johnny Mnemonic, and Blade Runner, starring a budget Jean-Claude Van Damme knockoff, then added a touch of Cannon Films for good measure, and mixed it into a cocktail, you'd have this film. One thing Nemesis manages to be is entertaining. Maybe not for the right reasons, but if you grew up perusing the rental aisles of your video store and have a love for low-budget sci-fi action films, you need to check this one out. This isn't something everyone will appreciate, but those who do will enjoy the hell out of it. Is it a good movie? Not at all. Is it entertaining? Yes. Yes, it is. My rating was a 5 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 5.6 out of 10. That wraps up this edition of the VHS Vault. Hopefully, it took you on a trip down memory lane or gave you insight on a film you've never seen before. For now, it's time to close and secure the vault. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into this week's episode. I'd like to thank my sponsor, the Maine Cannababes. Go to www.mainecannababes.com for more information about what they're up to, some of the events they're doing, and all kinds of cool stuff on their website. And that's pretty much it for this review cast. As I said, as of right now, Average Joe's Drive-In is on our new schedule, as some of you may have noticed, where I'll be having a guest on every other week, and the weeks in between will be review cast weeks. So the next review cast will be in a couple weeks, and I've already got all kinds of cool movies for you guys to hear about. And make sure you hit me up on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Say hi, discuss some of the movies we talk about. I love to interact with everybody, so hit me up on all those places. And I want to leave you with these words of advice. Remember, kids, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and I will see you sexy animals on the flip side.
It's intermission. Rise and stretch time. Time to refresh yourself and visit our snack bar. Got a yen for hot popcorn? Your favorite soft drinks are sparkling cold. The juicy Frank sizzling hot. There's delicious coffee, freshly brewed, and all kinds of ice cream and candy to tempt you. Showtime will be announced loud and clear to get you back to your car in time. So stretch your legs. Come to the snack bar now.
Thanks for listening to Average Joe's Drive-In. If you'd like to talk movies or contact the show, add our social media pages. You can add us on Facebook at Average Joe's Drive-In Podcast, on Twitter at TWJ Author, on Instagram at Thomas Washburn Jr. You can also hit up www.thomaswashburn.com thomaswashburnjr.com for more information about the show and related links. If you'd like to support the show, you can buy TJ's books on Amazon. Just type in Thomas Washburn Jr. in the search. Books are available in Kindle and paperback formats. If you have Kindle Unlimited or Prime, you can read the books for free and money will be earned by the pages read. It doesn't cost you anything and it supports the show. Until next time, you've been listening to Average Joe's Drive-In.